Welcome back to Rentabike Vietnam. Now today I'm going to look at the question of the ASEAN licenses. As we are an ASEAN member country, we often get asked if ASEAN licenses from other ASEAN countries such as the Philippines, Malaysia, Laos, Cambodia, Singapore are valid in Vietnam. And the answer to this is definitely yes, but you need to understand a few small points so that you can be sure that your license is valid here. So as I've said, all of the 10 member ASEAN countries have signed an agreement which means that they will honour each other's licenses. That means that you can temporarily go on holiday to any other country and then drive legally using your license. Now, of course, if you want to drive a motorcycle, you need a motorcycle license from your home country. And if you want to drive a car, then you need a car license. There's no getting around that, but other than that, it's quite simple as long as you make sure of a few key points. Now, the first thing is that you need to have English on your license. So it needs to say things like license number, date of birth, full name. This kind of information needs to be in English, and if it isn't, then you're going to need to have a certified translation of your license. This is where an IDP can come in, because the IDP has English in it and it will certify that you do have a valid driving license. Therefore, it can be used as a proxy for your ASEAN license. Generally speaking, if you've got an ASEAN license, it's a good idea to bring an IDP with you. You will also want to be aware that no translation is needed, technically. So as long as you've got English on your license, then that license doesn't need to be translated into the local language. However, getting that across to a cop in the countryside who might not know exactly the rules on this, or maybe not want to know the rules on this, are a different matter. So take this a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Now, of course, local laws and regulations still apply. You need to follow the road traffic rules. Just because you have a foreign license doesn't mean that you can apply some random foreign rules. You need to follow the speed limits, the traffic lights, and the instructions of police and all other people. You need to follow the local traffic laws, the regulations, the international laws, and also the general road etiquette of the country. Another point is that just because you have an ASEAN license and you can legally ride in Vietnam, it doesn't automatically make your insurance valid. You need to contact your insurance company, tell them what you plan to do, and to make sure that they agree to cover you for what you're going to do. So the main points from this are that you can drive on your ASEAN license. You need to have English on that license. Having an IDP is a really good idea because it can make things so much easier for you. And also be aware that you might find you meet a police officer who is unaware of the rules and who you might need to discuss all of these with. A further point is that you've got to check that your insurance is valid. If you can, get it in writing from your insurance provider. Having an ASEAN license is a massive boon because there are some countries such as Singapore, Malaysia, who haven't signed the IDP 1968 agreement. So therefore, if you plan to drive over here on a 1949 agreement, then it wouldn't be valid. So having the ASEAN license that is valid means that you can get around this. One final point is that there are some ASEAN countries that have signed the 1949 IDP agreement, whereas Vietnam has only signed the 1968 agreement. So for example, if you're from Singapore, you have a 1949 IDP, that isn't valid in Vietnam. However, I feel that it can be used as a translation of your ASEAN Singaporean license if your Singaporean license doesn't have English on it. So having a 49 to use as translation, I think would just be a backup, an insurance, and then allow you to then drive on your ASEAN license whilst in Vietnam. Now, maybe you're wondering what the ASEAN countries are. Well, they're a group of 10 countries that have joined together to form an alliance. Those 10 countries are Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, the the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and last but not least, Vietnam. So if you have a license that's issued by one of these countries, such as a Vietnamese license, you can use that in any of the 10 countries to drive legally. There's just one thing that you need to have English on the license. What we recommend is that you also have the correct IDP for the country that you're going to drive in. And you can see a whole list of which countries accept which IDPs just here. The best place to find out which treaties your country signed is on the Wikipedia link. So just Google IDP Wiki or follow this link here. Other important things to know in Vietnam are that rental companies will rent you a small cc bike, 125cc or below, and they won't ask you for any paperwork, any documentation, and they'll just let you drive on the road. If you do get stopped by the cops and you don't have a license, then you will probably be fined and then allowed to go on your way. For your travel insurance to cover you, you will need to be driving legally. So there are two ways you can drive legally here in Vietnam. One is to have a Vietnamese driving license. That's quite difficult to get. The other is to have a home license accompanied by the correct IDP. There are some other areas where there's a lot of confusion, and the first one is that some tour companies will tell you that as a part of their tour, even if you don't have a license, you will then be driving legally because you are part of their tour. That's absolute nonsense, and the logic just seems very silly to me. Another thing is that your IDP, if you need one, needs to be the paper copy. You can't use the digital copy. If you have the digital copy, then the cops on the street have the right to refuse that and then still fine you. It is also possible to buy many different kinds of IDP online. And sometimes these online companies will sell you the incorrect IDP. For example, if you're Canadian and you've only signed the 1949 agreement, sometimes these companies will sell you a 1968, and in their paperwork, their digital copy, it has Canada listed. But of course, the cops here know that Canada didn't sign the 68 agreement. They won't accept your dubious IDP, and then you'll get fined. Now, here are some of the frequently asked questions that we often get asked through email or through renters in person. And the first one is, do I need to get my ASEAN license translated? The answer to this is, if it has English on it, then no. If there's no English, it only has your home language, then you need to get it translated. Unless, of course, you get an IDP which will act as a translation. One other question we get asked a lot is, can I use my car license to drive a motorbike? I've got an IDP, can I use that? And the fact is that no, you can't. A car license is for a car. You can't use it to legally drive a motorbike. You need to have the correct endorsements on your international driving permit that allow you to drive the vehicle that you wish to drive.